Hello, Kate. Welcome to the very first Tourism Matters podcast for 2026. Thanks for being here with me.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, this is going to be great. I'm looking forward to this. Now, before we kick off into our conversation, I have a couple of little get to know you questions so me and my audience can get to know Kate Gibson a little bit better. So, first of all, when you're traveling on an aeroplane, are you in the aisle seat, the middle seat, or the window seat?
Definitely window. I can, okay, too much information far too early here, but I can hold my bladder for a long time. So I'm the
Oh,
type of person, I'm not getting out, I'm staying, and I'm just going to sit there and look out the window and experience where I'm going first from the
great.
start.
So good. I used to be window, but I've migrated to aisle now because I can't hold my bladder for a long time.
Oh,
Yeah. If I'm traveling just with my husband and my son, that's very convenient because then there's three of us and then I can score the window because I don't mind pushing them aside if I need to go to the bathroom. But yeah, okay, window, great. And my second question is you've arrived at your destination and you're at your hotel buffet breakfast, picked up your plate. What's going on your plate, Kate? What are you perusing at the hotel buffet?
what am I perusing? It has to be a rainbow. I like color.
Mm, mm,
So it's going to start with fresh fruit
yeah.
and probably some form of protein. We'll go with some yogurt, and then we're going back for the eggs for sure.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, actually starting with fresh fruit, especially if you're in like a tropical
Oh,
destination.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's the business.
Even
All
better
right.
if it's local.
Yeah. Yeah, we were in Bali 6 months ago or so, and they had like a welcome fruit platter, and I'm like, yippee, this is going to be fantastic. And it was like apples and grapes and stuff, and I'm like, oh, where's the I don't know, banana and mango and pawpaw, and yeah, it was
All the
very
exotic
disappointing.
fruits.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, thank you for that insight. That sounds like a good, healthy breakfast, might I say? Well done, ticking all the boxes. All right. So I'd like to go back to young Kate, please, and talk about maybe when you finished up school and if you studied after school and what you studied and if you ever planned on tourism being your career choice. So did you
Yeah.
grow up in Perth?
Born and bred in Perth. I grew up about 30 minutes south of the city. We had horses and property there.
Mm.
So I was a very outdoorsy kid from a young age,
Mm.
very much outside in the paddocks with the horses, spent a lot of my time out exploring and getting dirty. Um, and then I finished school, and my first plan was to study journalism at university.
Mm.
So I got into to study journalism, and then I deferred it to move to the East Coast to pursue my uh, first choice career, which was being a professional horse rider. So I was a
Oh,
dressage rider, hence the
oh,
horses. They stayed with
wow.
me through my whole childhood and into my adulthood. So when I was 18, I finished school and moved to Melbourne and started studying horse business management because I could take my horses there, which is crazy, right? How niche is that? Um,
I'm
where's
sorry. I have to double click on that. Um, please explain
okay,
horse business management.
horse business management. So I'd always been interested in being in business, not necessarily intentionally, but I liked the idea of business and
Mm,
being my own boss, doing what I
mm,
wanted when I wanted, maybe. And I wanted to keep riding, and the riding and the horses was a big part of my life, but I also believed that I needed to keep learning and educating. So I went to a college called Marcus Oldham College just out near Geelong. Um, and they did horse business management, which meant I could bring my horse to campus, live on campus, train my horses there while also getting a diploma in business management. But it was just all tied back to horse businesses. So whether that was a farrier business or a equipment shop or a racehorse
right.
trainer or a breeder, all the different areas that you can run a business in them equestrian or the horse world. So that's where that started.
Okay. Thank you.
The business knowledge I got out of that far outweighed the horse knowledge. But yeah, that was the reason I went there. Talk about niche.
Wow. I did not know. I'm sorry, I'm writing it down. I did not know that horse business management was a thing. So thank you. I love learning new things. Um, so do you take your horse from Perth to Melbourne,
Yeah,
Geelong?
I
Wow.
took my horse over there. And then when I wasn't studying and in class, I was training and going to competitions on weekends and competing. And then when I finished there, I moved up to Sydney to do the horse world full time, and was training and riding and competing for about a year, and then
Wow.
packed up and moved to Germany at the ripe old
Oh,
age of 20.
wow. What initiated that move?
Horses.
Oh,
Germany is the place to go. There you go. Germany is the place you want to go if you want to make
did
it.
not know. Okay, I did not know that either.
I don't expect many people know this, but yeah, when you're in the world of horses,
All right.
which I very much was,
Right.
so I moved to Germany at 20, and the intention was to compete and get to know how it works on the world scale and in the international dressage world. And I ended up staying for nearly 4 years training and riding dressage horses. And
Wow.
then, my big, hairy, audacious goal was to get to the Olympics. So I was very dedicated to the world of equestrian.
Wow.
And then I reached a point where I thought this isn't giving me what I want anymore. I lost my passion for the sport, which
Ah,
which I've learned over the years that when I don't lead with passion and purpose, it very quickly loses its impact
yeah.
on me and my intention to continue something. So I stopped the horses and knew someone who owned a hotel in Germany and close to where I was living. And I started working as an business or events manager at this hotel. No
Wow.
skills. I'd learned the language to get by, but now
Yeah.
suddenly I'm learning the language
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
and doing that for about a year before I
Wow.
came home.
Wow. Did you take your horse with you?
It was the plan, yes. But then through some issues, he wasn't able to get to Germany.
Uh,
So
uh,
I bought a new horse over there and trained her up instead
ah,
over there.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I was not expecting this little beginning
So
to
that
this career
story.
journey. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So a year as a events manager in a hotel in Germany and then back. And so what year are we roughly here?
Oh, without dating myself
Yeah.
now, I moved back to Perth in 2013. So
Oh,
that's,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. And then when I was home, I uh, studied to be a personal trainer.
Mm.
And then I opened my first official business as a personal trainer.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, not in tourism at all. And even today, yes, I'm very aware that some would suggest I'm in tourism, but I think there is such a crossover of the industries that I work in. And it
Mm.
all stems from all of these jobs and all of these experience that I've
Mm.
collected along the way.
Hmm. Yeah, I often ask that of my guests actually. So, would you describe yourself as working in the tourism industry?
Uh, yes, I would say
Hmm.
50%.
Mm.
I definitely started in health and fitness. So the personal training business is what sparked the Hike Collective and what
Mm.
I create. And it still does drive it significantly. I believe that my purpose is not driven by tourism, but by human performance, human growth, and connection. But tourism is a beautiful pathway to reach the people that need the product that I deliver.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
All right. So you studied personal training and then opened your own business as a trainer. Do you still do personal training, or that's finished?
No, I
No.
I stopped that maybe 3 years ago now. I did
Oh,
continue for a
yeah.
long time and did both of them, at the same time, but not
Yeah.
anymore.
All right. So what happened after you moved on from personal training? Not 3 years ago, but initially.
Uh, I didn't so I guess this is the start of where the Hike Collective came from.
Right.
Um, I started hiking on weekends because I saw the benefit of what being out in nature did to my mental health more so than
Mhm.
anything else. And I was in the industry of health. I loved seeing people physically challenge themselves and get a positive physical outcome, but also mental outcome, and what
Mm.
that did to the person in front of me, not just to their physical appearance.
Right.
And I would hike on weekends for my own personal journey. And I started to recognize that the power of being outside in nature for that human connection and the accidental physical benefits that came with it would really impact my clients. So I
Right.
invited my PT clients out onto the trails. I said we would create a group and go on one hike once a month. Bring yourself, bring a friend, and bring a gold coin to raise awareness for mental health charities.
Ah.
So, what started in November 2006 as a mental health awareness initiative has grown into a national award winning tourism company
Wow.
completely accidentally
Wow.
from those early walks for mental wellness.
Wow. Oh, that gave me goosebumps. Yeah. Wow, that's so
Yeah,
cool. That's such a good, I guess, example or message around, just following the crumbs and what unfolds before you, and yeah,
yeah.
following your interests and your passions, and um, God knows where it leads you.
Exactly. I think that any successful business starts and always leads with a purpose and an impact,
Mm,
and how you can impact the lives of the people that are coming through your business, whether it's
mm,
transactional or interactional in any capacity. There has to be a fundamental social impact or human purpose to the work.
mm. And also, I think even for tourism businesses, also then a positive impact on, the communities you're working in, and your ethos and values and passion as a business, then
Yes,
also leaking out into the communities that we inevitably touch in this industry, and sometimes quite heavily impact in this industry.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's amazing. So, what's next in your journey? So personal training, and then what comes next for you?
Okay, so I was running the hikes on weekends and running my personal training business at the same time. And I accidentally ended up taking a job in, um, yeah, go figure. I get bored easily apparently, but I was working for Lululemon.
Huh.
Everybody knows the brand Lululemon. I took that position and ended up being in visual merchandise and community, and which I know nothing. I'm not a fashionist. I'm not a fashion person. I don't know anything about visual merchandise. I do now, and it has taught
Yeah,
me a
yeah.
lot. But interestingly, I was doing that and personal training and the Hike Collective, and then in 2018, I think I said I started. Yeah, 2016 was the Hike Collective, and then 2018 I had my son. I became a mum, and that was the big shift for me, where it was, this passion project, this um, social impact project that was the Hike Collective now needed to become something that selfishly I was able to get something from, other
Mhm.
than just helping other people, because I in the early days of motherhood, that identity shift and that change in your entire world, you are now in such a different role. Doesn't matter which way you cut it. Becoming a mum is a huge change. And I needed those trail experiences to to show up in my day-to-day life as the person that I needed to be for my son and for my partner and myself. So I was going on these experiences that I had created and doing it for myself, and saw the impact that that created and realized this has something that needs to be shared um, and impacting more lives. So I turned the passion project into a business in 2019 with a small child on my lap. I had the time and the capacity because I was just working with a few clients in my personal training, and I was on maternity leave from my job at Lululemon. So I had time, and I just squirreled away on creating this business, but in tourism. So someone had said to me, you're in the tourism industry. And I said, I'm not in tourism, I'm in health and fitness. And they said, just look into it a little bit because I think you're actually at the intersection of tourism and health and well-being, or health and fitness. So I looked into it, and it was my first taste or first experience or toe in the water of tourism. And I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know the difference between Tourism Council and Tourism WA. I didn't know the makeup of commissions and net and wholesale, all of that, nothing. So it was a very big learning curve, and I started slowly, but I went along to a Tourism Council networking event and just started some really cool conversations with really lovely people who were excited to share what they knew and who they knew so that I could, learn tourism. And I'm very curious by nature. I love to challenge myself and also learn new things and meet new people. And yeah, that's sort of what kicked off my tourism career. Everything from there is just kind of snowballed. I don't know if that's
it's a minefield. It's a steep learning curve, isn't it, when you don't come from any type of tourism background, and then all of a sudden you like you said, what net rates and commission and wholesale rates and distribution networks, and it's absolute minefield, and so many acronyms and so many abbreviations, and so how well, hang on, I have got a question around how you sort of manage that, but I can't help myself. How, because I've done a lot of accidental things in my life. I recently accidentally sold my house. How did you accidentally get a job at Lululemon? Sorry, I'm going back there, but I will come back, I promise. But
okay. One of my personal training clients worked at Lululemon, and I was obsessed with the brand. I loved what it stood for and the clothes, and everything she told me about it as like a community really excited me. It made me curious. And I've always believed that you can only build something based on your own human experience, right? What you don't know, you don't know. And companies that have done things like Lululemon does is something that I want to figure out. How did they do it? Why have they done it? And what makes it successful? So I was curious from that side of things, where I thought, this is an opportunity to learn something that is outside of my usual realm. Why not? So she actually said, come, we're looking for people in one of our stores. I said, I've never worked in retail. Retail itself doesn't excite me, but the company and the brand did. And that's my mindset was, there's something to be learned here. Take the opportunity. If it's presented to you, why not? So I went to the interview. I got the job. I started a couple of weeks later in the shop, and then it became an opportunity to work into that space of take on responsibility in community projects or visual merchandising. And I picked up skills that I'm sure are playing out in my career today.
Somewhere. If not yet, they will be, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for answering that. I just really needed to scratch that itch. All right. So you've had your child and, delving into the tourism industry and learning all the things. So good on you, must I say, because I scream this from the rooftops every time I'm, working with young people or mentoring, that networking is like just so important when you're trying to, from a business owner's perspective, it's, well, I would say a non-negotiable, particularly in this industry. Because as you said, once you start talking, typically the type of people that work in the tourism industry are excited to help, are excited to hear new product, are excited to hear or share their connections and, put people together. I know that I certainly am. I love it when, you're talking to one person, you go, I think you need to be talking to that person over there. I reckon you guys have got something going on. But even if you're not a business owner, even as an employee, and, if you don't have any desire to be an entrepreneur, still you need to I think to get the best you out in the world, follow, your passion and stand by your values and what it is that you are trying to create, whether that's employee or business owner. Sorry, that was a little bit of a soapbox sideways moment for a minute there, but I like to just drive these messages home to the listeners, because I know that so many of you are, young professionals or people that are early on in your tourism careers. So networking is ace, and sometimes it's really hard and a little bit daunting, and dare I say maybe even a little bit kind of cringy feeling to feel like you're going to a networking event, but I had some really great advice from the last podcast interview I did with Emma Rhodes, who said when she first started going to networking events and tourism, she would just go with the mission to speak to 2 people. That's all she needed to do. And then she gave herself a permission slip to leave if she was feeling overwhelmed. So I think that is, just break it down into bite-sized chunks.
I agree, but I've learned something really interesting about networking myself. And I used to turn up to networking events late because I wanted to enter quietly and not be noticed, and then kind of scour the outside. And if I spoke to someone, I spoke to someone and would just see what came. But I heard some advice once at an event that I went to that said, if you're an introvert or you're unsure or feel nervous about networking events, arrive early and be the first one there, because then there's no one in the room. So as people come, it's such a drip-fed build up of people in the room, and you can have that conversation early and warm yourself up. So by the time people get there, you're practically the host. Everybody wants to talk to you. You don't have to go and talk to them. They'll come to you.
Oh, that's hilarious.
They just host the networking event, even if it's not your own.
But that's probably another like I've hosted, especially through my time with Destination Southern Tasmania, I hosted a lot of networking events, and the hosts themselves are normally eager for people to arrive. So those first few that dribble through the door, the host or hosts are delighted to start a conversation, and but that's an awesome tip. Just elbow the host out by arriving early.
This is my party now.
That's one way to flip the script.
Yeah, maybe don't say that to them, but
yeah. Oh, thank you for that little tidbit. All right. I'd love to actually just hear quickly before we move on with your learnings, I guess, when you first came into the tourism industry. Have you got anything to say, and if not, that's okay, about sort of how you wrapped your head around all of it? Or even if you feel like you've wrapped your head around all of it, or, if it's just, this is the next thing that I need to try and work out, so this is the next thing I'm going to tackle, or you didn't do any study in tourism to sort of help with that process, or you kind of...
No, not at that point. My plan of attack was I remember this night at this Tourism Council networking event, I was speaking to Mr. WA himself, Corey Gale, who was in the PR team at Tourism WA. And I didn't know that is who I was talking to, because nobody in the room was familiar to me. And he was just said, have you spoken to Ryan and Ryan, the 2 owners of walking to a company called 2 Feet and a Heartbeat? And the answer was no. But if somebody in his position was telling me to talk to someone else, then I'm talking to that person next. And they weren't at the event, but I reached out to them because I'm going to take on any advice and I'm going to ask the questions. So I asked the question of Ryan if he would be interested in, I would pay for an hour of his time to sit him down and just ask him all the questions about his journey to figure out how he started a business.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I think, 10 years down the line by that stage. And how else do you learn other than by the people that have walked before you? So I paid for an hour of his time and sat down with him, notebook in hand, and just said, "Tell me everything. What's the CRM that you use? How does it work? How do you do sales, marketing, business development? How do you find guides?" I was not interested at that point in having guiding outsourced. I was just doing a one-man show, but it was going to come. And yeah, tell me everything you know. And then he would tell me something, and then another question would come up. And so I would ask that question. And then slowly I built this reservoir of ideas and tools that I could then start to implement. So I found out about the CRM that tourism industry uses, and then I went and researched that. And then I would ask them questions about what it was capable of doing. I didn't dive into the world of distribution for a few years later. I was like, there's enough fish in this pool to start us off. And yeah, asking lots of questions, talking to the right people. And to be honest, my theory about tourism, which has developed over the last 10 years, is that the industry works by the mix of so many other industries. Unlike like healthcare or finance, where they're kind of siloed, in tourism, a hotel isn't getting people into their beds without places to go and things to do. And nobody is coming on my tour unless they have somewhere to stay in a nice location, right? So the marketing organizations like Tourism WA and Destination Perth, they're all feeding the same mission that you are. They're doing the marketing for me. They're getting people to come to my destination where I run my experiences. And then, the accommodation providers, they want something to say, oh, when you're staying at our hotel, you can do these things or visit these places. So then I was, this industry is just so many moving pieces and parts, and they all work with each other. So everybody is, in my opinion and from my experience, naturally interested in helping if you're curious enough to ask the questions and be the learner.
That's so true. I heard somebody describe what you're talking about there as like the destination is like the shop, and the products or the hotels, whatever, are like the products on the shelves. Like you got to get people to the shop, and then this is what you can buy when you're in the shop. Yeah, that's so true. And it's just look, it's one big happy family, isn't it?
Most of the time until COVID hits.
All right. Sorry, I've derailed us a couple of times now. Right. So you're just starting off Hike Collective with a little one on your lap and trying to work out what this industry that you're half in is all about. And what else is happening for you? What happens next?
What happens next? So this all happened from about January 2019 is when it kind of kicked off.
Right.
Which lends itself to the following scenario, which I will expand upon. I was working 100% with local travelers or local guests. So I didn't have to worry about too much of what was to come with the travel industry. But the year of 2019, it was all about understanding the industry and slowly figuring out how that fit with what I was delivering. I applied for the tourism awards in the new tourism business category that year. And I think we won silver in that award, which was really exciting to sort of kickstart that. Yeah, I'm on the right track.
Congratulations.
I love storytelling and writing. So the process really like
Uh,
lended itself to
yeah.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone who has entered a tourism award will know what I'm talking about. And if you
Mhm.
haven't, there is a process and a half, but I think that's what's so great about it, about the program. And that allowed, I think, a little bit of recognition and reputation to build.
Mhm.
Um, then we started running tours. I stopped calling them hikes and started calling them tours. And they were kind of happening every Saturday and every Sunday, and that was gaining momentum. And then when we entered 2020 and the world closed down, the tourism industry was obviously very heavy hit. And I was in a very fortunate position that we brought small groups of people together in outdoor settings in Western Australia for mental well-being and physical movement.
I feel
So
like this is like, thank you, crystal ball. What's
it definitely felt like a
Surely there must have had a crystal ball in those years leading up.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
look, it started the trajectory for the Hike Collective, and
Uh,
we were able to create something. I mean, that's where that health and well-being side of the business came in, and not just tourism, and where the real
mm,
intersection of the two began to shine, because we were
right.
able to get people out into beautiful places. Not so far from home. So, anyone who's listening that's not from Western Australia will understand that we became an island within an island here,
Mm,
and life went on as normal for nearly 2 years. We just couldn't go anywhere, or no one could come in. So, other than I think there were 2 or 3 lockdowns of up to 6 or 7 weeks each, we were pretty much chilling in our normal life over here. So we could take people out on trail and nobody could travel. So they had all of this
mm,
wanderlust feeling of like, I need to get out. Where can I go? What can I do? So little experiences like what we provided at the Hike Collective, which was a little taste of travel, a little experience out of the norm and out of a little novelty, and the opportunity, more importantly, for connection. So we created, I call them the three connections. So we had connection with others, and everybody was desperate for these connections, right? We were all in our homes and working from home, and there was so much
mm,
uncertainty that that level of connection with community and with other people was very important, and we were starved of it. We
mm,
also create experiences that allow for connection with yourself, and through all of that vulnerability and mistrust with what's coming and uncertainty, um, there was a lot of self doubt that crept in. And am I going to be okay? And what if I get sick? And reaffirmation or reassessment of where we were at in our own health journey, right? It was
mm,
really thrown into the front view of how are you showing up? Are you healthy? What happens if you get sick? All of those sort of questions on self. So
mm,
I found that a lot of people were disconnecting from, their feeling of vitality and life and happiness and joy, and we weren't able to do things that we would normally do or travel the way we would normally travel. So there was an opportunity there out on trail to connect with ourselves in a more natural way. And the third connection that I always talk about in our experiences is connection to place. And when you
mm,
travel, you are naturally getting more of that connection to place. But when we're at home or just living our daily life, there's a disconnect from place. So being out on trail allows us to connect to the place that we're in and feel the energy and the rock and I don't want to make it too like about the energy, but we all know that when you're in beautiful places, you feel
yeah.
something shifting that's totally resonant to the place that you're in.
Mm,
And so these three connections were able to be brought to life for people during the age of COVID, with where uncertainty and disconnect was so um, viral, so to speak. So
mm.
our experience, that was a long story, but our tours, our hiking experiences became even more important and ridiculously popular.
And
So
are you at this point? Are you still? Have you employed anyone to
uh,
guide, or are you?
I had a team of volunteers. So we had people that would come along on our experiences and feel drawn to the mission and the purpose of what we were creating and wanted to be a part of it. So they came on board as volunteers, and those years were really about learning, right? How to not get lost, how to not lose other people, how to keep everyone safe. Not that we look, I've not lost anyone in 9.5 years. Okay.
Touch
So we're
wood.
doing good.
Touch wood. Yeah.
But
Well done.
yeah, so don't do the maths too hard there, but
Yeah.
we're good. So yeah, I mean, we built this community and tribe of support guides, and I was mainly doing the leading myself. I believe it was 2020, towards the end of 2020, when we started employing people to lead the tours, so that I could step back. And the front guide, the person leading it from the front, they were now tour guides, and the support guide was at the back. So our volunteer team supported from the back, because I mean, if you look at traditional hiking tours, you generally have what we call a tail end Charlie. So someone's at the back who's keeping everyone together, but usually, and a lot of the time, they're not guides, they're people that are on the experience. And they're given a CB radio and told, oh, just like keep in touch with us. And I fundamentally disagree with that
Yeah.
model. So I understand that everybody is on a hiking journey for their own reason, but the people that generally shift towards the back of the group are the ones that maybe need something more than the people at the front of the group do, purely because whether it's that they feel anxiety or anxious about their physical abilities or being part of a group. My experience over the last 10 years has suggested that the conversations that happen at the back with the people at the back of the group are often the ones that get taken home and last a lot longer than the walk itself. So our volunteer team became the most pinnacle important person in our team, because they were holding space for these conversations. And funnily enough, our volunteers had often come from being the participant who was at the back of the group.
Okay.
This is that human connection piece, right? It's all
Yeah.
together. So yes, you could be up the front and on a bit of a physical mission. I want to conquer this trail, or I want to, lead the pack. But we came up with a bit of a motto that was, your pace is the perfect pace, and this is not a race. So there are hikes out there that you can go and do with friends or other, hiking providers that are about pace and speed, and you're going to get from A to B, but we were never about A to B. It was always about the journey along the way. I think I'm rambling a little bit here, but yeah, that's sort of the front person in our team was leading logistics and safety and risk and delivering really cool story about place. And then our support guide is ensuring that everybody feels that safety to explore at their own pace without getting left
Psychologist.
behind. Yeah. The trail is the psychologist, we
Yeah.
like to say. We just allow it to happen.
Oh God, I love everything you're saying. This is spectacular. All right. So since then, what's been happening in your life and career and with the business? So this is currently at around 2020, 2021, yeah? So 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
So
Okay.
2020 and then into we entered the Tourism Awards again in 2021, because they were skipped in 2020. And then we ended up winning silver in tour and transport operators at the National Tourism Awards in 2021. So
Wow.
gold at state, and then we got to go over to nationals. And that, awards for me is about building recognition, reputation, and awareness, and also recognizing where the business is at, doing a little, where have we come from and where are we at in the last 12 months. It's a really good opportunity to sit back and analyze your business and the process you've been through. So that kind of really kicked off that next level of, okay, now we are recognized as being pretty damn good at what we're delivering. It's time to level up now. Tourism, well, the world was starting to open up by that point, 2022. And I think that was when I first went to ATE, so the Tourism Exchange on the East Coast. Before that, Tourism WA had been reaching out and saying you should be on these the online road shows. So they were because in lieu of being able to travel, I started getting an idea of what international trade and that distribution world looked like through 2021 through being on these online calls, which was great because there was no price point to it. There was no ticket. So it was affordable to get into that world of distribution.
Yeah.
And then I it was supported for the first time being back in real life, which I think was 2022. Maybe it was 2023. I think 2022.
I think
Could
so.
be wrong. And being back in that world and seeing what distribution looked like, I was like, wow, this is a different world.
Yeah.
And, that in itself, the distribution pathways has been a journey and it's still one that I'm not completely across, but I'm okay with that. It's not my focus and it serves a purpose. As a small operator, it's a very challenging avenue and it takes a very long time to kind of get traction in that space. But it's really cool to be aware of it and be around those people and starting those conversations.
Yeah, and I
So that
think also with distribution, and for those that are listening, distribution is just how your product gets booked by, someone on the other side of the world, essentially, or anyone really. But I mean, it's getting your product visible, to a travel agent in Germany, for example. And there's a very sometimes complex and convoluted network of people that are involved, from Kate standing on the ground in Perth about to take a hike to, someone in the UK that's walked into their travel agent and said, hey, I'm thinking about going to Perth. So that's what we're referring to when we're saying the distribution network. But I think also, Kate, that distribution is kind of one of those things that you can kind of go, right, this is where we're focusing. And once you're sort of all over that and you feel like, you've hit your KPIs and, you've got your numbers right, then you go, all right, well, let's dabble in this new the area, or this whether it be online travel agents or whatever it might be. It's kind of something that you can kind of keep adding to your basket, I guess, of ways to distribute your product, or not. Like, some tourism operators, especially micro businesses, with less than 5 or 10 employees, just to have a really narrow distribution network, and that's fine. It works. They're not, you won't find them on booking.com, or, it's just whatever works for your business. But it's good to know what avenues are out there, I suppose, as a business owner. And also, again, this is just as relevant to employees that ever work in like business development or sales or whatever, or revenue management. That's knowing and keeping on top of, because that's another thing, like distribution networks, especially with OTAs and online travel agents, and the online world is like, that's changing like every millisecond.
and it's going to be very interesting to see where that world goes in the next few years.
Yeah, that's interesting, because with some of the conversations I've had with people in the tourism industry, it almost feels like a tiny little sway, like back towards almost human. I would like a travel agent, a human being, to book my travel for me if I'm going to have someone help me, rather than all just online. And I think just maybe this sudden rise of, what do they call it? AI slop, and you can't really trust what's out there. Even some of those really reputable platforms, there's just scam after scam. And some of the conversations I'm having is just like, this either direct bookings or bookings with a human being helping you book your travel seems to be coming back into vogue. I've got no stats to back that up, except for just a gut feel after having some conversations. Yeah.
I think
So,
that's true in the next few years. We'll see a lot more of that in the position of a tour guide in somebody's traveling experience, because a lot of jobs are being questioned at the moment, and how do they see themselves in the future. And I think the position of a tour guide is going to become even more powerful, because it creates that real life opportunity to connect with someone and to place and, have a real life conversation, which, yeah, I think if you're going to start into tourism now, that is one surefire job that is not going to disappear.
okay, sorry, you've started me off now. Right. I had it written down. I was going to come back to it, but we're going for it now. Well, you're so right. Like, tour guiding is often an entry point for people into the tourism industry. And whether that's because they want to be a tour guide, or whether that's because, as rather a number of people I've spoken to on this podcast, just were traveling and wanted to keep traveling. And the way that they could work out how to do that was to themselves become a tour guide. And
Yeah.
it's kind of launched this career into the tourism industry. So in a moment, maybe you can shed your insight on maybe what you look for in tour guides when you're hiring them, if you don't mind. But before I do that, I'm going to share a little story which just totally plays on what you just said, in that on New Year's Day, so just a couple of days ago, I took my son, who's 10, to Monarto Safari Park, which is up here about an hour of Adelaide, because I grew up in Adelaide, but I've never been there. And we decided that we wanted to spend the first day of the year with animals. So we went up there, and it's quite a big safari park. There's like 5 or 6 stops around the park, and you jump on a bus. And, they tell you about the animals that you're driving past, and then you can jump off and go and experience them close up, or see other ones that you can't see from the bus. So we spent the whole day doing that. But I'll get to my point now. Some of the buses, well, most of the buses actually, all except 2, and I think we probably got on maybe 8 over the course of the day, had volunteer tour guides at the front. They would jump off, give any kind of explanation or direction to people getting off the bus. So there was a bus driver, so they were just driving, and then the guide, and they would answer any questions or welcome people onto the bus, kind of do a bit of a head count or whatever, make sure, we're all good. And then they would talk in the microphone, and they were so knowledgeable about all these animals. And because they're human beings, and let's be honest, they were of a particular demographic because they're all volunteers. So, they're all largely 50s, 60s. They have these great life stories, and it was like a beautiful personal experience. And then 2 of the buses we got on did not have a tour guide. So the driver kind of had to shepherd people on and off the bus. They had a recording that was obviously prompted by GPS, you'd go through a particular gate, and then the recording would start talking about the cheetah that's in here or something. With the driver would sort of maybe help, he'd be keeping an eye out to spot where the cheetah is, but all the commentary was just recording. And it was stark, the difference it made listening to, or not even listening to, a recording, because it's a recording. So it sounds like you're listening to a safety demonstration on an airplane, versus having a human being with lived experience and, can answer questions and, give their own, last year, this particular rhino, he was like this, and, just their own human spin on it. And it was worlds apart in terms of how connected you felt in those. They're only short little bus rides just in between the exhibits, but it was wildly different. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to add that human, because I've had this discussion with people and been like, the tour guides, I reckon we're good. People are going to be wanting more and more and more of that connection. And we're seeing it when people travel, they don't want to, that they're traveling to connect, and they're traveling for well-being, and they're traveling for health. And a tour guide has this wild opportunity that almost nobody else in the world has, to educate and connect and make a difference on someone's life and give them perhaps what is a bucket list experience. And I might be wrong, when we all get the chip in our arm and we're all happy to, you know, have our own PA on board, but it can't be replicated by a recording or by AI. Yeah.
Right.
So I just wanted
And
to
do you know
share
what?
that story, and I'm
Do you
sorry
know what you
for
said that
hijacking.
was the thing that you said that was really powerful there is that it was about connection,
Mhm.
right? So I think that the power in a really good tour guide is the ability for them to tell story that is able to connect a person to either the experience itself or the place or destination that they are visiting. We can all go to beautiful places and see it, but not feel it and not
Mhm.
meet it, like not meet that destination, right? A lot of this comes down to the nervous system and where we're at in our minds and our body and whether we're in our parasympathetic nervous. A lot of it comes down to that like biological positioning that we are in when we arrive in place. But the guide's role or a really good host is able to switch people out of that and experience the place as a being or meet the place and the destination and the spirit of where we're at, not just it as a place. Does that make
Mm.
sense? So let's
Mm.
look at Karajini is a national park. Karajini National Park is up in the Pilbara region, which is in the north of WA, and it's very remote, very rugged. There's no reception out there. Not a lot of people living out there. But the rock in these gorges is 2.5 billion years old. When you walk into these gorges and you're just surrounded by rock walls that go up into the sky and the temperature drops 10 degrees because you're like deep inside this crevice and then you've got the soundtrack of the water and the echo of the birds around you, right? You can go in there and walk in and say, cool, I've seen the gorges of Karajini. Or you can have someone host that experience who knows how to hold the human experience in there and pair it with the destination itself so that the person is leaving with something that's now installed in them for the rest of their lives. They can go home and go, I remember who I was and how I was in that gorge in Karajini. I remember who Karajini was. I remember who the gorge was, like how that gorge came alive. And
Yeah.
that's what I mean by the connection of place and a guide or a host's role in designing that connection. And that's something that only humans can do. We can all spit facts. We can all learn how old the rock is and when it, what it looks like, but we can't learn how, well, we can learn how to do it as a guide, but learning how to, envelop or hold the people in that location or in that place with the spirit and the connection of that place and what that brings, that's the really powerful place that a tour guide has opportunity. And I think that we have to get away in tour guiding from just spitting facts and story at people and educating them, because nobody's going to remember in 1869 what happened. They're going to remember how they felt in that space in comparison to time, right? That perspective of time and space and size is something that we will take home because we felt it. And the story is important. We need to know the story because that gives us a little bit of that perspective, but it's the way that it's delivered and designing around the place that we are holding those guests in. I don't know. That's a very big rant, but hopefully
No.
they kind of, yeah.
So that actually probably leads on very nicely then. So with all of this in mind, what do you look for when you're hiring guides? Yeah, I'll leave
So
it
what do I look for?
there.
To me, tour guiding experience is irrelevant. I don't need to see that somebody has led a group. I like to know how they have gotten through a hard or a challenging experience in their own life, personal or professional. People that are able to um, connect with doing hard things, because most people that are on our tours, I mean, we run at the end of the day, all of our success has come in adventure tourism. So although you might not find leading that group physically hard, you need to be able to empathize with somebody who's turning up for the first time in a really challenging environment. And knowing that you can recognize that you've done hard things and these people on the group could be doing something really challenging for themselves, whether it's physically or emotionally. We have both ends of that spectrum. I'm looking for people that can stay calm in crisis, so to speak. They can act as a leader or provide first aid and think clearly if something goes wrong. So their mental stamina has to be quite strong. They have to be super personable. How can they connect with somebody? At the end of the day, I'm selling connection. My business sells connection in wild spaces. So can they handle the wild space? Have they got the physical capacity to do that and the emotional capacity to hold that space for our guests? I don't care how well you can memorize facts. It doesn't bother me. Those are the fundamental skills that I'm looking for. Side note, I lecture at North Metro TAFE in tour guiding and in some of the other subjects within tourism. And that's often what people will ask me. They say, what skills are you looking for? I've come here to get the skills so that I can be a tour guide. And what you learn on paper is very important. You're going to learn the what and the when, but you're not necessarily going to learn the how in that environment or be out there and really, it's human traits that make a good tour guide, not necessarily all of the education, but the education helps, if that makes sense.
And so just from a practical level then, like a first aid training of some course is critical, or that's something that, if someone was prepared to do it, that that didn't have a first aid certificate, for example, or
as far as that goes, I mean, you can become first aid certified in one day, and they run day courses every day. So it's not fundamental to get the job, but yet it is fundamental to do the job. I'm very risk averse in the business. My goal is to remove all issues of safety so that the guest and the guide are completely fully equipped for a beautiful experience. So we have a lot of processes in place and risk management and risk mitigation and all of those processes, which, we do have guides that are wilderness first aid trained to work out in the Pilbara. But if they're working purely around the city, then senior first aid, working with children's check, which comes with police clearance. Those are the basics, but I think that's across the board in tour guiding for sure.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Kate, so much gold coming out of your mouth.
I hope so. I hope you're getting some value.
Well, there is for me anyway. I'm having a great conversation. All right. Is there any other career experience in there that you had that we should touch on?
That pretty much sums up to today where we're at.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So now full-time hike collective.
Not quite. I'm doing actually not. Yeah, I have been doing a little bit of consulting over the last 2 years to predominantly help smaller tourism businesses get their foot on the ground or figure out those processes that really helped me in the early days. Maybe also doing some writing for award submissions and grants because I like writing and using words. Right. So I have been doing a little bit of that work as well, and just giving back to the industry from a perspective of I've come through the journey from the start in a relatively quick timeline, and I've learned a lot of the processes. But this is how can I give back and how can I support small operators just starting in
great
tourism.
Well, so do you still guide yourself or not at all?
Occasionally, I did guide on the weekend. We've got this really cool partnership at the moment, which is outside of tourism, but It's with an in real life dating company where they bring singles to do normally bars. They'll take big groups of singles into bars so they can meet in real life. And I reached out to them and said, you guys need to offer hiking for singles because not everybody wants to meet in a bar. I can facilitate these experiences with our team and bring people out into beautiful locations close to the CBD. And so we've been doing this series for a few months with about 200 singles that rock up to the trail and mingle
Oh,
and meet on track. And it's been amazing. I'm sure there's some love stories to come out of it. Um,
wow.
so those types of events I really enjoy. I like those sort of larger scale events and going out and meeting people and putting my feet back in the boots and kind of going, this is why it started. I think that grounding is really
Mm,
important.
mm.
And I often get, you must be so fit if you hike all the time. And I was like, I wish I was fit from hiking. I wish I got out there more. So I'm making it a bit more of a mission this year to put the boots back on more. I also do a lot with like media for mills and
Mm,
industry for mills. So I'll go out and
mhm.
lead those. We film a little bit, so I'll go and do that. And also I like to lead our multi-day journeys. So we've got the day tours, but we've also got our 5-day journey and a 3-day journey. So that facilitation piece. Um, it, I've got some really cool guides in my team that are very good at what they do. And I like to go out and do on the ground training with them, but then also
Mm.
facilitate so that they can see the methods to my madness a little bit as well.
Oh, wow.
But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
I'm
cool.
not out there as much as I wish I was.
Yeah. That seems to be the life of a business owner, though, isn't it? You sort of
It is
inevitably get pulled away from what it was that started the
on the
journey.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Have you got anything you would like to add at the end of our conversation here?
Oh, if anybody wants to sit down for an hour of my time and have some coffee and chat about tourism, I'm always open to give back and have those conversations and ask the cool questions that you might not be thinking if you're just starting out in tourism.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I'll put your LinkedIn handle in the show notes so you can get dozens of messages from people that would like to have a coffee.
Sounds good. I can
Yeah.
caffeine up. That's cool. You've
Yeah,
got,
yeah, yeah. Mum life.
yeah, that's it.
All right, Kate. Well, thank you so much for this conversation today.
Thank you. I appreciate
It
your
was,
time.
yeah, it was a real delight. Thank you.